We're going on the roof.
Excited about it?
A little nervous, but it's cool. We're gonna we're gonna clean little spots off, and then we're gonna caulk them so that we don't have any more leaks in our roof. Just to like prep it. It's a really nice day, so we've got like a few hours drying time, not a cloud in the sky, which is exciting. And then eventually, once we're done with our skylights and our fan, we will paint the whole roof white with a elastomeric paint. But we're not there yet. We gotta prep it with some caulking. I'm scared. I guess once I've been up here a few times, I won't be scared anymore, right?
That's true.
Woo!
So don't push back with your feet, only push up with your feet.
Great.
Just push straight down with your feet.
And then how do I get off?
We'll cross that road when that happens.
Okay. I'm not.
No, you're not. You're still on the ladder.
Can this handle?
Now you're up.
Not take places on the roof to be?
Just stay in the middle.
Okay.
All right, so we got up on the roof. Are you up yet?
I'm on the roof. I'm up.
Dang old field of dreams out here, isn't it?
Oh my god. This stuff's called Natura Safe Prep. It's a safe alternative to TSP for paint preparation.
So we were thinking about using trisodium phosphate, which is called TSP. It is a paint, it's a prep detergent, so to speak. It's a degreaser. It takes the dirt and the grime off, and it promotes adhesion of paint, and in this case, the material that we're gonna put down the caulking to seal the seams, because we did have some problems with some leaks. So right now what Erin's doing is she is spraying a lot of this on the seams and wiping it down. Check it out. How's it going?
Good.
Yeah.
I'm not so scared anymore.
You're rocking it.
Okay, so what I'm doing here is just going over the seam and smoothing it with a putty knife. This will just make it so it's not so messy when we go to paint over it, and hopefully really like push the goop into the seam. I discovered where the leaks are coming from. The plastic on the emergency exit is cracked, and there's only a few spots in the bus where we've found water, and the emergency hatches have definitely been the culprit. We're not replacing them right now because we're gonna build skylights. So yeah, we're gonna leave it right now, but at least we'll know that this for sure is where the water is leaking if it rains again, and hopefully it won't for a while. The cracks. Exhibit A. Well, this isn't the most beautiful caulking job, but at least it's reassurance that we won't have any leaks in our roof. Well, at least before we paint it. It'll just be like the backup sealant.
That was pretty simple, pretty straightforward. We just hit all the seams, and now we're gonna go ahead inside and finish the inside demolition.
And one last thing, I don't feel so scared anymore.
Yeah!
That's exciting.
And the crowd goes wild.
Yeah, sometimes you just gotta do the thing that you're like, uh-oh, about. And it's not so bad.
It's not so bad.
So one of the safety tips that we have for you that Brian did once we were already up and he came down on one of the trips, he tied the ladder up. That gave me so much more reassurance when we were coming down the ladder because look at how sturdy that is. Like, that's pretty freaking sturdy. Can't even rip it down. Look at that.
It doesn't fall over. So to do that, we used these handholds that are here at the top, and we simply put a ratcheting strap on there, tighten the strap, not too much because we still want all 4 of the dogs to be on the ground at the bottom of the ladder.
He means legs.
Yeah. We want the butt spurs, excuse me, the butt spurs to be on the ground. So just have it tight enough to keep it from falling over. And no matter what you're doing on this ladder, it won't fall now because it's secured right here at the top. I'm exploring.
Today, we are taking out the emergency roof thing, skylight, emergency skylights. Oh, and we are putting in our own. This is super exciting because we've been wanting to put in skylights for, I don't know, a while. Right, Bri?
Yep.
And today's our lucky day. We've got sunshine. It's fall in Ontario. Woo! Let's do this. To the roof, Batman. Hey friends.
It's bright out here.
We've been working for hours on the skylight. We wanted to get the first one done and show you the second one. But this is the only time we're gonna cut this lexan.
Yeah, so we've got lexan, we've got a 24-inch by 48-inch piece of polycarbonate. Lexan is just a name for polycarbonate. There's a lot of different names for it. So this is 24 inches by 48 inches, and we're actually gonna cut this in half because we're gonna use this one sheet on 2 emergency exit hatch skylights. So one thing to remember is to measure 3 times before you cut, especially when you only have one piece of this. This stuff costs like 130 bucks for this one sheet. So divide that by 2, that's what we're spending on each skylight for a 1/4-inch lexan. Now, it does have a coating on both sides that we're gonna peel off later, but in this particular example, put the painter's tape because that can help prevent chipping of the edge. You're gonna want to use a circular saw with a carbide blade. Carbides are basically these little welded on tips right there. They're super, super strong, and you want something that has a close tooth on it. So something for woodworking would do good. There was no hard fast rule when we talked to the place that manufactures this, so we're gonna just go with carbide tip. One that works for wood should work. Go full speed when you do this. Next step, we're gonna set up a fence to be our guide. So that's simply having something straight that you could rest the foot of the circular saw against as you go. So let's see where we need to put our fence up. So we're just looking down to see where this cut's gonna be, and I'm gonna split that line with the blade so it's even on both sides. And let's see.
I'm gonna set this down so that we don't drop the lexan.
And she's back.
Oh, that's smart.
So now I'm gonna clamp this this to the table over here. And you can see that it's lifting up over there. That's fine because I'm just gonna push it back down and just make sure that it's nice and straight. And this is just a guide for me. I'm also gonna watch the line with the guide on the foot. So this might throw lexan at you a little bit, but we'll see.
That's okay, it'll be worth it because you don't wanna drop this.
Yeah, all right, we get one chance with this. Are you nervous?
No, I think you got a pretty good setup.
All right, cool.
I believe in you.
Thank you.
I believe in you.
I believe in you. All right, ready?
Yep. that on me. Lexan. Good job. That looks pretty good.
Yeah. Now let's check it to make sure there was not too much chipping. Not that we could do anything about it.
Okay.
Oh, that looks pretty good.
Really good.
Cool.
Around.
So that
Lexan cut
is how you cut Lexan. It's not the most perfect thing, but it works.
I think you did a really good job. It doesn't really matter. It's gonna be on the roof anyways. So, I mean, it's gonna have edges around it and hopefully be pretty close to the edge of our wood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now we're using these hex screws that have a little rubber washer on them. So the rubber washer is going to help absorb the vibrations from movement while we're driving. And because if you put a normal screw or a wood screw or a metal screw into the Lexan with a hard head on it, it might crack. And so what that rubber washer does is it absorbs the vibration and prevents it from cracking.
That's lucky.
Yeah. It's called a speed square because it's supposed to be faster.
Rude. He's rude and he knows it. So rude and he knows it. Let me measure. He's rude and he knows it.
I couldn't find my other pencil that I brought out here.
He's so rude because I took it in the car.
You took it?
Ow! Fingers under there.
I didn't know that they were underneath.
Okay. Keep pressing and we'll keep not going. He's rude and he knows it. So rude. So crude. He's rude. Rude dude. Rude and he knows it. Rude boy and he knows it.
Sneak peek. We'll show you this. Don't worry. This is the first one. We found some things that we've done wrong already, like we tightened the screws too tight. We're gonna tell you more about that. There's some tips that we've learned from doing, and then we've got.
So nice.
Yeah. So let's put the clamps on next, or the latches.
Cool. Gotta go. The sun is disappearing. So Brian is putting a ratcheting strap, as you can see, right here to compress both sides of our frame together. So when he puts in the little locks, boop boop, that they'll be really tight and snugging up against the weather stripping. Check it out. Safety equipment for removing the emergency hatch. Goggles, gloves, and then your tools You're gonna need wire cutters and a drill. What's this drill called? Impact driver.
Yep.
And an impact driver so that you can, once you get the stuff done inside, you can hop up to the roof. We're probably actually gonna use a putty knife also to pop off the, there's like these little plastic covers. We'll show you. Pop those off so we can unscrew the screws.
All right, so you're gonna notice that you're gonna have some wires coming down from your emergency hatch. This is what causes the buzzing to go off in the driver compartment. First thing to note, you're probably gonna have one screwed into the frame. This is the neutral, that needs to be removed. So we just unscrew that. And we got a little carried away and we had already cut the white wire, or in this case, it's a blue with a white. So all you would do is take your wire snippers, find the wire, and then connect it. Cut it right in the middle like this. So now this is completely removed and separate. So one of the things that we didn't know was if we cut this wire, were we gonna have problems in the driver compartment with the emergency hatch opening alarm going off? We did a test, come to find out, it doesn't matter. It doesn't go off at all whenever you cut this. So now that it's disconnected and everything else is free from around this area, remember in the video for removing the ceiling, we took off the trim that was around here. If you haven't watched that video, watch that video because that shows how to remove the trim. Now we're completely free along here. The next step is heading up to the roof with our impact driver and a putty knife and start removing this from the outside up. So we made it up onto the roof.
Why?
Come on, baby.
Okay, so what we've got here is some like old caulking, a lot of old caulking that we're gonna peel off with a putty knife. Then we're gonna clean the surface with this Natura Safe Prep. Then after that, we're gonna use this wire wheel so that we can clean up the edges and make sure that it's nice and clean before we paint it. But before that, we'll do some other stuff and we'll show you how that works. So now that we have our surface area clean, we're gonna go back down into the bus, measure out our corners, drill in 4 holes in each corner, and then we'll be able to cut the whole square and paint. Come on, let's do this.
Coming in. So the reason why we're drilling holes is because we're gonna do our cutting from on top of the bus so that we can draw a straight line and have plenty of room to work from the top. All right, so now that we have our hypothetical edges where those new screw holes are or where the new drilled holes are, what we're gonna do is we're gonna trace a box close to them based on the existing opening so that we can find where the square is. So just grab your speed square, set up your edges on both square corners, and then once you have that approximated, then draw with your pencil or Sharpie or whatever you have, draw a square edge on there. So it should be close to that hole that you drew. Because we might actually be connecting into that. We just needed that hole so that we would know on the inside that we weren't cutting through a frame or anything like that. The important thing to remember is that you really don't want to go into any of the framing members that are already existing unless you have a welder and you know how to weld and reposition members and stuff like that. So in this case, we don't have a welder right now with us, so we're going to just make sure that we stay within that framing. So we're at 23 7/8 on that one, so we're good. We're at 23 15/16 on that one, so almost 24 exactly, which is good. We're at 24 exactly on that one. And the last one, we're at 23 3/4. So we are, or 7/8. So we are pretty darn close. So because the tolerances are so close with that, I feel comfortable making our cuts directly on the lines that we made. We'll measure out between the lines after the cut to make sure that we have enough distance here, that is the same distance here, that is the same distance here. Because on the first one that we didn't account for this lip that was kind of coming out on one of them, and we had to trim off a little bit of the metal on this side. So by measuring in those spots, just think of your pieces of wood going parallel to it, and they're going straight. We don't want anything dipping into it. The crowd goes wild.
So the idea of painting along the edge is so that the raw metal doesn't rust. So the paint just protects that edge. So hopefully in the future we won't get rust. And just be really careful of your edges. Brian cut his finger on one of the edges because he wasn't wearing gloves, and he was just working with the wire, but his knuckle banged against one of the fresh cut edges, so be careful.
Dry fit it, see if this fits. Fits perfectly. All right, cool. So now that we know that it fits perfectly, we're gonna take it apart, put a bead of caulk in there. We didn't do it on the first one, so the first one, what we're gonna have to do is just throw a bead on the outside edge. But for this particular one, we're gonna unscrew it and then throw a bead on the inside. Should seal better.
Okay, so now what we're gonna do is we are creating a little bit of an arc so that when water hits the top of our skylight, it just rolls off. It's not going to be a very big angle, but angle enough that it should allow the water to shed a little bit more easy than if it was a flat top.
All right, so we're fighting the sun right now. It's disappearing. We have the hole, we have the skylight, we have the hinges attached. We're ready to set it down in the hole. I'm gonna be inside, Erin's gonna be outside holding it up, and I'm gonna screw it into the side members.
Yep.